Hey, everybody, welcome. Glad that you're here. My name is Trevor Grimes. I'm the host of The Content Crowd, just a live show where we talk about the real side of content creation, what works, what flops, and how to build something that actually connects. And today I'm joined by my colleague, Joseph Lewin, head podcast of Scrappy ABM. We're going to be digging into how to focus your content efforts, the difference between growing an audience versus building a network, and how to create content that drives real growth. Welcome, Joseph. How are you?
Trevor, thanks for having me on. Man, honored to be the inaugural guest on your new show. How fun. I love it.
I should have added some sort of graphic that is like a fireworks or something. So for everybody that is watching, yes, this is the inaugural episode. And just to sort of set up how this came about and set up how amazing Joseph is at what he does, or at least in convincing people to do what they want to do. I was talking to Joseph last Wednesday and he said, just do it next week. Just start next week. And I said, okay. So
that's always the answer. Start next week.
Yeah. Start next week. Do it rough and dirty and quick and dirty. And that's kind of what I just did because I accidentally put up your name instead of mine when I was talking. So you know what? We already had a few of those, but it's okay. Let's just jump into it. Tell me about your current role and how do you describe what you do at parties?
Yeah, so I am head of podcast strategy at Scrappy ABM. So I basically help clients launch podcasts and run them effectively. For most of our clients, we are helping them do an account-based podcasting strategy. And the goal is really building relationships with your ideal customers and building your network while also building authority. And typically that leads to pretty quick revenue for our clients. And then we have a few clients who are going for audience growth, and we're helping them. One of our clients floats between number 1 and number 3 for marketing podcasts on Apple. And so we work with a couple clients who are looking more for that audience growth side and more of the brand side of things. So have fun working and helping kick all that stuff off. As far as parties, I'm actually not that much of a party animal. So I'm the boring person at parties. I usually find like one person that is interesting, and then I find a corner and just talk with them the whole time. So I'm like the lamest person at parties ever.
No, I understand that too. I do a similar thing where I don't really want to tell people what I do, not because I don't want to talk about it, but because it opens so many rabbit holes of I'm a content creator or I'm a content writer, or like for you, I work in podcasts. That's got to be like one of those things that opens up so many questions of how do I explain this to somebody who works in the medical field, and vice versa. Like if I asked them what they did and they started talking about anesthesia or whatever, I'd be like, you're going to have to talk to me like I'm 5 because I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, most of the time you're like, hey, I work on B2B podcasts. They're like, okay, cool. So moving on.
Yeah.
It's not usually something that people are super interested in talking about.
No, that's actually a good segue because what I wanted to follow up on was you mentioned like you focus on account-based like podcast strategy. And I think that can be like maybe a little confusing because when we think about if we think about account-based marketing, we're not calling it account-based podcast just because we're an ABM agency and that's like the buzzword we're putting on there. There's a definite purpose behind an account-based podcast. And so I think when we typically think about podcasts, we think about having a lot of listeners and you're making a show and a lot of people are watching. So how do you create a account-based podcast? Like what makes a podcast account-based versus your typical podcast that is out for the masses to listen to?
Yeah, so for companies that are selling to other companies that have what's the word I'm looking for? I'm trying to use not the acronym here. When your customer lifetime value is over 50 grand, or at least like in the high 20s, 20,000 plus, most of the time there has to be some kind of relationship built with the buying team, whoever's going to be buying. And the more people involved in the process, the longer your sales cycles and the higher your lifetime value for those customers, the more important relationships are. And so a lot of times we're focusing on typical marketing things like brand or lead generation. They bring value and there's definitely opportunity to grow that way, but they don't necessarily build super deep relationships with people. And so the awesome thing about using a podcast as an account-based podcast is you go, man, if I knew these 50 people in this space, whether they're potential customers or industry leaders, industry influencers, potential partners, basically make a list of the top people where you're like, man, if I knew these people, it would change my life, it would change my business. And instead of just hoping that you run into them at an event or trying to corner them at an event or trying to cold call or cold email and get them on the phone, you can have a much higher rate of getting them to have a conversation if you reach out and you say, hey, I love what you're doing. I'd love to have you on my show to talk about XYZ, whatever that is. And what that does is, for one, you're positioning for the very beginning value. You're offering them something valuable by getting their perspective out there. And as long as it's not a bait and switch and you actually genuinely want to hear what they have to say, and you're asking them great questions that lets them show their expertise, you're giving them value up front. So they're much more likely to say yes to coming on the show. And then once you've had them on the show, if you've made them look good, you've made them feel good, you've given them value, you've given them exposure, they are so much more likely to be open to continuing the conversation. Sometimes that looks like directly into a sales conversation. Sometimes it's referral. Sometimes it's, hey, we're going to be at the same event later this year. Let's grab coffee. So it's just creating an environment where you're able to actually get in front of these people, have them say yes, and building a deep relationship through podcasting.
A follow-up to that is, and I'm going to be playing devil's advocate here a little bit, because this is my first immediate thought, is let's say what you just explained to me, and I'm a business owner, and it's okay, that sounds really great. I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to start my outreach. And I'm wanting a potential prospect or a potential new client to come on the show. How do you leverage that in a way for a new show like this that may have very few viewers, or if you have a smaller LinkedIn page, how do you sort of leverage the ability to build that without having an audience already built?
So the funny thing about podcasting and live shows is the same thing. There's so many things that people say in there, or like all the limiting beliefs, which what you just said is one of them,
right,
that keep people from actually starting. They actually aren't really nearly as important to everybody else. So it's just total head trash in your head where you're going, nobody's going to say yes. People say yes to coming on your show without ever looking at it. So if you ask 50 people to come on your show, you're going to get whatever, let's say 10 people who say yes, no matter what. And then you're going to have one person who's, I'm not going to go on your show unless it's way bigger or whatever. And then you're going to have one person who's going to go, oh, can you send me something? You send them any episode about anything, and they'll still come on the show. Or you say, hey, this is the first episode, or I thought you'd be a great initial guest, so we're just getting started. And most people are going to go, cool, great. And they're still going to come on the show.
Yeah.
So you just reach out and ask them, and most people are going to say, or a good portion of people are going to say yes, whether you have anything or not. And then on the flip side, you can just do your first 3-4 episodes with friendlies. You could do it with the previous customers. You could do it with people who you already have in your pipeline. You're already having great conversations, and you go, hey, during our conversation, you mentioned this. I'm kicking off a show. I'd love to have you on to share your perspective on that. And a huge portion of people who are in sales conversations with you right now are going to say, sure, yeah, I'll come on. And then now that's another touch point. It's another way to continue the conversation. And I have personally seen it happen where I re-engaged somebody that way, where we talked about doing something, wasn't really going anywhere. They went dark, and then I reached out, had them on my show, and they go, hey, yeah, I'd actually like to keep this moving forward. And we got a deal closed. And I think it was like within a week of having them on. So
wow. That's a great example. And I want to be the proof for that as well, because you mentioned, I'm glad you mentioned being the inaugural person or one of the first few people. And I started doing that this past week and just reaching out to friends who I thought would be interested in being on it. And even all them, and I'm spilling some information, but it's okay. They'll forgive me. But, a lot of them were like, thank you for thinking of me. I'm so glad you thought about me. And that's
exactly,
that's the personal like relationship building part of it that we, especially in the B2B stuff, not always, but a lot of times we forget that we're talking to a person still. We're still talking to a person that has feelings and emotions and wants and all these things. And sometimes it's nice to just be seen and heard that way of, hey, like I'm just doing a show. Like you said, we had a conversation about this, or we're already talking about something, or even just like we're on a show where we're talking to people who are like you. You are our target like audience for this. And we would love for you to come and be on our first few episodes or our first episode or whatever, and talk about what you do and how you do it and how just learn from you. And again, there are a lot of times they're like, I'm so glad you thought about me. It feels good to be wanted in that way. So I think that is I don't want to say that as a way of don't manipulate that, but I think that's a really good thing to keep in mind, is that sometimes it's nice to just have a conversation, but also feel like somebody wants to talk to you and is interested in hearing what you have to say.
Who doesn't want to talk about themselves? Right?
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah. And I think that really tethers well to what this is and what you I want to say taught me, but you really put this idea in my mind that I had never really thought about before, which is I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, but we're talking about building an audience or like building connections, building a network. And like I think sometimes we think about it as the same thing, or we think about we have to have a network before we can build an audience, or we have to have an audience before we can build a network. And I think the big paradigm shift for me that you instilled in me when we talked about this last week and brought on what we're doing right now is you're like, you can build an audience, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of repetitive things and doing the same thing and putting it out there, or you can just build a network where you are interviewing people, having this conversation, low stakes, it's just out there, and people start to see your personality shine through your interviews. They start to see personalities of the people who are being interviewed,
Yep.
and it grows that network, in which I think turns into an audience quicker than if you were just trying to go for the sake of creating something. I'm sitting down by myself every day and talking through something and trying to create all these videos and all these podcast episodes and blogs or whatever. So I really want to, hear you sort of explain that through your lens, because it really like clicked with me and it sort of changed the entire way that I thought about content creation this last week.
Yeah, I've just been in content marketing, and I was a product marketing manager for a while, and I've worked with marketing for small businesses and the agency world. I was a strategist in a previous role where I was working super heavily with clients. And out of everything I've ever done, this hybrid where you interview people that you want to know works by far the best for driving measurable results. So that's where, to me, the end goal of marketing should be to start conversations with the right people who already know something about your company and they have a good feeling about your company from a brand perspective. If you're starting conversations with your sales team and you're giving people a positive perception, you're winning in marketing. And we make it all these other things. But if you can do those two things, and so why not start with the most important thing up front? Just start conversations with exactly the right people. And if you're doing that, you're already getting the most important thing you could get from marketing from the very beginning. And then we can take this episode, you can cut it into clips, you can do all kinds of stuff to repurpose it for your marketing, you turn it into blog posts, you get all that stuff if you want to. But from the very beginning, if nobody ever watches this episode and you don't use it and you don't repurpose it at all, so you don't get any SEO value or anything, you've still built a deeper relationship with me. And then if I needed, we work together, but just as an example, if I needed copywriting or I needed content, I'm going to be much more likely to think of you.
Yeah.
Especially if it's within the next couple of weeks, way more likely to think about you.
Yeah.
And then it opens the door for post-interview conversation, which is where the real magic happens. We get done and you have the opportunity to ask me anything you want. And now you're getting market research. One thing that's really valuable, it's not just revenue, right? So let's bucket this into a couple things, because this idea of creating content with the people you want to know, whether it's a live show, a podcast, you're writing a book, there's all kinds of ways you could do it. I like podcasts and live shows. It's the things I enjoy the most because it's super easy, low lift. But you could do this if you go, hey, I'm writing an article. I'm going to do clips I'm going to record a quick 30-second clip for TikTok and I want to interview you. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
Creating content with people that you want to know and build better relationships with. It's awesome in so many ways, but you got to pick your goal and what you want to do. And revenue is one. So if you're in sales or you want to grow your company, you can pick your list of target accounts you want to grow and you can go that route. And if you do that, you're going to close revenue way faster than cold calling or any of these other things that salespeople do. So killer for that, right? But let's say you're not in sales and you're a product marketing manager. You can use your show to interview the kinds of people who buy. And now you get to have amazing research, because after the interview's done, you go, hey, I'm the product marketing manager for this software company. And so I love, this is a great interview and I loved your perspective on this. We're trying to understand this kind of challenge better. Would you be open to sharing your experience with that? And there's a really good chance they're going to say yes. So now you're going to get firsthand from a potential client, a prospect or somebody that's in your ICP, their words for how they describe the pain they're going through, their words for what they're trying to solve. And you can pull that market research. Or another thing, I've now landed 2 jobs that were like perfect fit for exactly where I was at by interviewing people on my show. So my previous job I landed because I had interviewed my former boss now on the show. And then that ended up leading to a job opportunity where I got like 40% increase in probably 4 or 5 years jump in my career progression. And then I landed here because I had interviewed somebody that our boss now, Mason Cosby, knows, and Trey Shinneman. And then he made an intro to Mason. And then that ended up leading ultimately to me getting my role here. Lots of different ways that you could use this to get new opportunities and grow your network if you take it that network first.
Yeah, that's interesting you brought that up, because I just thought about how you're talking about getting new clients is one way, and that's probably like what most people are thinking about. But then there's two other options, which the first one you just brought up was just furthering your own career. And you just gave an example of how you landed this job and previous jobs by doing something like this, building a network first. And then I also think we know that referrals are also a huge driver, and this could turn into a referral engine depending on how you
100%.
anchor it. Like most of the people I'm interviewing for the next few weeks work at other agencies, and they're not ABM agencies. They're just different types of agencies with different ICPs and different goals, and they do things a different way. And it's always really interesting to talk with somebody from a different agency about how they do things. And there's different philosophies, and there's different sort of truths that people believe in. And we all follow these different rules, and the clients that work with us the best and like the philosophies we have follow us. And sometimes you get people who are not a good fit. And I think that's an amazing opportunity to talk through a super easy way for me just to message a friend who works at an agency and ask, do you want to be on the show? And they're going to talk about what they do and who they work with. And then we're going to talk about what we do and who we work with. And now we both know what each other does way better. And it's 100%. An opportunity to be like, actually, I know somebody that works just with urgent cares. And that's the truth. That is somebody I'll have a guest on here. What if we happen to get an urgent care potential in our pipeline and work? That's not really our thing. We're more B2B. I know exactly who to call, and same to them. If they get something that is B2B, maybe there's a software that's for urgent care. That's not what they're working on. Maybe that's something that we could work on. It's a handshake, I guess, just by being on here.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that kind of gets into, again, if you take an audience first approach, I'm not going to say that's wrong. And there can be a ton of value in that, but you have to be in it for the long haul. And if you don't have an amazing personality and really strong opinions, it's very hard to grow an audience.
Yeah.
Now you can do that over time, like quickly. Now I have run into people who have done that really quickly, but they usually have a really magnetic personality. They have really strong points of view. People either love them or hate them. If that's you might do okay. But most people I've met who are B2B entrepreneurs aren't like that. They don't have that kind of magnetism and personality. So that's where anybody could start a show where they interview people that they want to know, ask some questions, have some back and forth conversation, and build that rapport. And then you end up seeing all of these opportunities faster. And then, like you said earlier, you actually end up growing an audience typically faster, because now those people who you've had on like you, and maybe they'll share the show. They'll use their network. They'll recommend you to other people to have as guests, and you start organically growing the show versus creating content and pushing it out and pushing it out and pushing it out. Very few people can actually maintain that level of momentum.
Yeah.
So the awesome thing, though, is that the opportunities aren't limited to even the things that we just mentioned. So we talked about revenue. That's cool. Talked about potentially landing new jobs or career development. That's cool. We talked about
referrals,
which
I know ties to revenue, but
but that's I've seen more deals come through referral personally. Like interview somebody, they hear about what I do and they go, hey, I'm not in market for that, and then they introduce me to somebody in their network, and then they're passing a deal to me that's super warm where they made an intro to a friend. And a lot of times it's somebody I've talked to one time. I had them on the show. We have a 5-minute conversation, and now they're making a warm intro as if we've known each other forever into their network. And the chances that other person is going to close are super high.
Yeah.
Because it's an ultra warm referral at that point. And then we talked about market research, but I've landed speaking opportunities, and clients I've worked with have gotten speaking opportunities, podcast opportunities. I've found people that I've hired onto my teams from the show. I have found contractors that I've interviewed on the show. And then, like you said, I found other people who do work that I don't do that I can then refer people to and consistently be growing my influence and network within the industry I'm in, because I'm the one who's always bringing new opportunities to other people, which builds an incredible amount of goodwill. So then if I ever need something, I now have 10, 15, 20, 30 people that I've sent clients to who are now going to be super open to hearing what I have to say.
You just gave a scrolling list of benefits. And I want to lead this by saying, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's super easy, right? I mean,
Yeah.
doing this right now. I think that's what I want everybody to kind of like hear at the end of that is, okay, yes, like you've got to get in front of a camera. You need a webcam and you don't even need to have a microphone. You can use like your headphones mic or whatever. You need a webcam. Very low barrier to entry. I feel if you're confident enough, and I feel like most of us have gained a lot of confidence and or at least like comfortable levels because we've been on Zoom calls for the last 4 or 5 years.
Yep.
And this is basically what this is. This is
Exactly.
no like crazy tech involved in this. Like me and you have nice, mics and headphones, but that's because we live in this space. But otherwise, you don't really need anything. You can use your AirPods or whatever, and you just need
Yeah.
a webcam, a $30 webcam or something like that. But just finding the first guest, sending them the link, hopping on and just having a conversation. If you can talk to somebody, it's pretty easy, right?
Yeah. So I'll say this in two ways. One is don't be scared. It's way easier than you think. But if you're wanting to do it, then reach out to me because we can help you speed up the process and solve a lot of the issues, work through all the stuff that you'll run into. So basically, like you can do it on your own. It's way easier to do than you think to do a live show or do a podcast. Most of the things you have in your head are total head trash.
Yeah.
It's really just a matter of getting out of your own head and just doing it. So totally agree on that. But there are a lot of things that will take you 6 months, a year, 2 years to figure out of doing it that now that we have a lot of expertise in launching shows and kicking these things off, we could speed that up so that your time to getting a return on your effort for the show is reduced significantly. A lot of times we're seeing clients have pipeline within 3 months, 2-3 months of starting their show. If you're doing a re-engagement strategy where you're working with people who have gone dark in your pipeline, sometimes it's even faster than that. Sometimes it's within a month or two that you're closing deals because you're re-engaging people who you'd already gotten pretty far in the process with.
Yeah, and just for context, so I'm not taking any steam away from you. When me and you talked about this, I think you told me like 18 months is what you should look at before you get any traction out of it. And that's doing it by myself and not posting anything afterwards. But like you've got it figured out. We can take the things that we do and make clips and do a lot of other things and help you go a lot faster and also follow up with it. This is for somebody like me who's just going to upload this live. And after we end the stream, I'm going to message you on Slack and say, good job. And then I won't talk to you for another week or so. It's still valuable and it's super easy to do. And when you I love that you said there's a lot of head trash. And that's what I came to you with last Wednesday. I think I unloaded for 25 minutes and you're like, all right, listen, man, everything you just said, like just throw it out. All you need to do is put a camera and talk. Because I was like, I'm going to, do I like put it on do I put it on Spotify? Do I put it on street? Where do I put it at? And then how often? And I was giving you sort of all these things and all these things that build up. And it seems like this giant mountain to overcome. And you were like, look, I'll be your first guest. We're going to go live on LinkedIn. You're going to talk and you're going to end it and you're not going to post it anywhere else. I did break the rules a little bit and I am streaming live on Facebook just because.
Oh, there you go. Hey,
just because I wanted
one extra button click. There you go.
and I made these as like a bonus, but
I love it.
But you don't have to do those kind of things. I just want a little extra. But for anybody else, you can hop on and do this and get that huge mountain of work out of the way or hire somebody to do it like us. But if you just want to do it for yourself to further your career, for example, or just like I'm doing, build referrals for the business and help just add a little bit boost to Scrappy ABM. Like you can do it without a ton of time or money investment other than maybe an hour a week.
Yeah. And the way that I would look at it is if you are working for somebody else, you don't even maybe have a side hustle or you have a small side hustle and you're just like, hey, I want to grow in my career, maybe add some value to my company, all that stuff. I would say start super simple and do a live show like this. And what I love about the live show is that it's super simple, easy to start. Basically everything you said, Trevor. Get out of your way. You could start next week. Don't worry about it. And you're off to the races. If you have a small company, you're just getting started out and maybe you're doing like 200 grand or below, then the live show makes a ton of sense because you're not going to then spend 5 hours per episode editing and cutting clips and doing all that stuff and getting bogged down in that. But you're probably also not at a spot at that point to hire an agency to be running that for you because there is more cost involved in that. But once you get up to 500 grand, $1 million in revenue, that's where I would say it really turns to where at that point I would say doing the podcast and investing in the actual podcast production makes sense because you already have an established brand and that's going to help you get way more content out consistently. That's going to be super high quality. So in that case, what we've been working on, or what we do here at Scrappy, is we help you launch your show within 30 days, which is one of the huge sticking points for launching a show. A lot of shows I've worked on in the past, podcasts, like where you're actually putting it on Spotify and doing all the works, usually takes 3 months minimum, but a lot of times 6 to 9 months to actually launch the show. Whereas we're really taking all that stuff out of the process, making it as simple and easy as possible to get started so that we can start and launch in 30 days. And that way you're really getting results much sooner. And then at that point, we're cutting clips and posting content on social channels and doing all that stuff to really help you get the value faster. My last thought on that that'll help clarify is, when we were talking, I was saying, if you focus on an audience first, 12 to 18 months, and a lot of times even 24 months before you can even think about getting a return on your time or the investment that you're making. Whereas if you focus on interviewing people that you want to know, the return on that is way faster. And a lot of times, like 3 to 6 months, you're almost definitely going to see the return, especially if you have those higher lifetime value customer deals that you're getting. But a lot of times you're even seeing that return come within 60 to 90 days, just because you're focusing on getting those relationships that lead to opportunities and deals and all kinds of stuff.
That's the part that really stuck with me like super hard early. It even changed like the things that I was watching or listening to for fun. Like I was listening to a YouTube video and this guy was talking about, it is weird because it lined up exactly with some of the things you were saying. And he was like, just show up once a week and just do the same thing. And I was just like, that sounds so obvious. And the way you said it also sounds so obvious. As a content creator, no matter what kind of content you're creating, yes, that's so obvious. Just show up once a week and do the one thing that you want to be known for, or you want to pitch, or just do something that is fulfilling and fun to do, or something that ticks all the boxes like this. But I think, again, that mountain of head trash, like you said, is one of those things that stops us, I think, and stops like people who are in their career and they're wanting to get ahead, stops people who own a business or running a business or starting a business. Like that mountain of things gets in the way. And I think like just focusing on and reframing it, like I'm here to not necessarily grow an audience, but build a network and grow those connections. And all I really need to do is just hop on LinkedIn Live once a week and talk to somebody and have a conversation. And you know what? Like for our networks, or my network at least, like it's relatively small. I bet there's tons of people who have never heard me talk or anything, and now they're learning I have a Southern accent, and that's probably something interesting. So even just that, I think maybe they just remember me as like the guy who talks about content and stuff, but also has a Southern accent. That's just kind of one of those things.
I love it, man. Yeah, and it's interesting because everybody's talking about AI nowadays, and so I feel like it's it gets to be annoying because it's like anything anybody wants to talk about. But I think with this, something that's really valuable at this point in time is, yes, AI is absolutely going to change the way that we work. It's not going anywhere. I use AI stuff in my job every day, and figuring out new and better ways to use it. There's a lot of value, but human connection is insanely valuable, and it's always going to be valuable. And the more that people spend time online, the more they spend time in front of a screen, the more they spend time chatting with AI bots, the more valuable being able to make connection with humans becomes.
Yeah.
And so this is an awesome way to build those relationships and be really consistent about it. And the interesting thing is, relationships are one of those things that you don't need them until you need them. But when you need them, it's too late to invest in it. So you really want to invest in your relationships way before you need them. And for you to be the relationship that's adding value, you to be the relationship that's giving opportunities, and you to be the one other people are coming to. And then when you need something, then you've got tons of relational equity already built up. And I would say one of the things that took me a long time to learn was, I thought, man, if I get my skill level super high, then I'm going to get opportunities.
Yeah.
But what I've learned over time is that the people with the relationships get the opportunities, and then your skill is what gets you the credibility to get more referrals or more from the relationships, more trust, more. But you really need the relationships first, and then you need to get your skill up to match the kind of opportunities that you're getting. Yeah. Whereas if you go trying to get the skill level first, you're just not even going to get the opportunities that lead to more and more relationships, more opportunities. So I can't stress enough the importance. If you're a content marketer, or you're, really in almost any level role, and you want to move forward in your career, don't sleep on building relationships and really focusing on that. And this is such an easy way to do it.
Yeah.
If you continue with this live show, you're going to be investing maybe 2 hours a week to do this once a week, including invite, putting everything together, hosting the show, doing all of it. You do this, let's just say 48 weeks this year because Christmas, holidays, sick, whatever. That's 48 conversations that you get to have that are going to be meaningful, moving you forward and building those bridges with people. Whereas last year, you wouldn't have had any of those conversations, right?
That's true.
Or you'd have to go to coffee or go to events or go to all these other things that take way more time and energy than just spinning up a live show and chatting.
Yeah. And that's so interesting way you put that, was like making the connections before you build the skills, because I've been thinking about it the same way as you up until this point, was trying to post more on LinkedIn and trying to get through skills and trying to show off these different things. And maybe somebody will invite me to be on their podcast. Maybe that's the kind of thing. Maybe somebody will notice me and ask me to do these kind of things. And maybe I'd try to do some like outreach or something, but I'm just like, maybe when I'm good enough, when I'm finally at that, whatever that level is, somebody will notice me and ask me to come on and do whatever. And you're, the way you've positioned it is like just what we're doing right now. Like no one's going to ask me to be on their podcast. I was on the Scrappy ABM podcast, but I think Mason ran out of guests, but and that's been it, so I was on one podcast last year and it would happen to be at the place where I work. So I feel like that's only counts as that's only half a point.
Hey, now you've been on another podcast.
Right. I just started my own. Yeah. So now this year I'll be for the rest of the year, I'll be on like 30.
Yeah. At least one a week, at a minimum.
Yeah. So I think that's getting those reps in, and that's showing up. And again, maybe nobody ever asked me to be on their podcast because I have my own now, but you know what? Like now I'm the one kind of.
No, by you doing this show, I'm interrupting you. But
no, go ahead.
For a good reason.
No,
for you to run this show, you're going to get more podcast opportunities because you're out there, right?
Yeah.
People are going to know that you exist. You're not just limited to the people in your immediate sphere, right? You have the opportunity for people that you don't even know to see this show and to give you opportunities. So your opportunities outside of your own show will increase significantly.
Yeah, that's true, because like in a way you're creating your own, and there's so many things about like getting lucky or whatever, but just showing up and having the opportunity to be in front of somebody and get those opportunities is more than luck or whatever you may think about. I used to think like the more I do, the luckier I am, but it's not really about the more you're doing and hoping on that luck. It's about doing something that presents the opportunity to do more. So I could go ask to be on a bunch of people's podcasts, and maybe if I'm lucky, after I ask 100, one person says yes, or I can make my own and just be on one every week and potentially have some others. Maybe I'll find somebody else that also has a podcast to be on mine first, and then they return the favor. But either way, like I'm showing up and I'm just kind of making it happen. So I think that's
create your own luck. That's kind of what you're doing when you're doing this. You're creating luck. And the interesting thing is I tend to be somebody who's going to go, you need to work hard, right? Life is full of hard work. And if you work hard, and pull yourself up by your bootstraps and all that kind of idea, I mostly buy into that. But then I do see critique to that. And I think it's fair to a degree, because it's not just about working hard and doing more. It's about being very intentional about what you want and then working really hard at the right things that are going to move you towards that. So if I want to go to San Francisco, which I don't like San Francisco, but if I did for some crazy reason, then I'm not going to just walk down to the train station downtown and hop on the first train that's down there. I might end up in Buffalo.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure which I'd rather be in, San Francisco or Buffalo. Probably about the same. But the point is, if I want to go to San Francisco, or how about we say San Diego? Now I want to go, right?
Okay.
If I want to go to San Diego, I'm going to do a little bit of research ahead of time, and I'm going to buy a ticket for San Diego. And I'm going to show up at the platform at the right time, and I'm going to get on the right train that's going to lead me in the most direct path there. And it still is going to take me a long time to get there by train, but at least I'm getting on the right train going in the right direction. And so in life, if you want to get somewhere different than you are right now, then you got to decide where you want to go, do the work, a little bit of planning, and then go get on the right train, doing the work, going in the right direction. You're going to create your own luck. And there's one other analogy I want to share that kind of pulls, I think, most of what we're saying here together. So I worked with my brother. He's a sales rep at a company that sells the super high-end radar systems. So I worked with him on starting a show. He had never done anything like this before. He's always been like dialing and cold emails and going to events and typical sales activity, really good at it. But focusing on that side of things. So I'm like, David, you got to start a show and try this out. So he had started in a brand new industry. He had no relationships at all. He didn't really know anything about the industry. So new industry, new products, everything brand new. So he ended up going to this event and met this guy who was a prospect. I had a good conversation. The guy doesn't answer any of his emails for 2 months. So I'm like, dude, start a show, invite this guy in your show. So then my brother starts a show. The next week, he reaches out to this guy, says, hey, I'd love to have you on my show. The guy who had ghosted him for 2 months jumps on the show with him and then ends up closing a $500,000 deal in less than 3 weeks of launching this brand new show. And so he's now been running the show for about 2 years, and he's had most of the top industry leaders on in this niche industry. And now he has prospects who are coming to him wanting to be on his show because he's now created this community around his show. He's getting sponsors for his show after 2 years, and he's actually bringing in revenue from his show as like a side. And then he's making commission from closing deals with clients who are coming to him through his show. And he's closed over $2 million in revenue directly through his show. And so that works super well. But the analogy that he and I have talked about that I think is really powerful is, look, you could try to go get a seat at the table. And that's how we usually talk about it, right? Like, hey, if you want to move forward in your career, how do you get a seat at the table?
Yeah.
But I think another way to do it is, why don't you just set a table, pull up a bunch of chairs, and invite all the people you want? And now you've just created a table that now other people want to come to. And that's what starting a show and doing this can do. You're going to build those relationships. Now you get to be the person pulling all these people together, setting the table. And now other people are going to be coming to you wanting to get access to the table that you have now set. And so don't be the person on the outside saying, how do I get access to that table? Be the person that's setting the table and inviting everybody else so that you're the one who's now has people coming to you.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. That's like an awesome story. And I know that we've, just from seeing the work that you do at Scrappy ABM and our clients, like we have a lot of similar, like that's not like a one-off thing. Like this formula, this playbook, whatever you want to call it, really does get results. And I think, again, like setting the table, inviting somebody, bringing that human connection back into it, I think is extremely powerful and pushes a lot of relationships like further. And so I want to lead off of that because I feel like what I'm asking now myself, because after we talked, this is similar to our conversation. This is the first thing I thought. So I want to ask for everybody else who's probably watching or listening, is two-parter. Is one, how do I know what train to take, or how do I know what destination is? Like, how do I finally land on that thing as a multi-passionate content creator or marketer or whatever I'm into? Like, how do I figure out what that destination is? And how do I know if doing a live show like this or something similar is the right thing for me to do once I figure out what that destination is?
Wow, that's a loaded question. What is the meaning of life?
Yeah.
How do I figure out my passion? No, it's a really good question though. I think it's a question most of us have asked and are probably still asking. No matter where somebody's at in their life, they're probably still asking that, even if they seem to be really successful or where they want to be.
I'm still asking that too. And I think, but me and you talked about this last week, and it at least helped me get in the right direction. Some of the things you said and some of the advice you gave. And I know that, and you can shut me up, but I know you mentioned, hey, I'm still dealing with this. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what I want to do. And as multi-passionate people, you gain a lot of skills doing a lot of different things. You can do a lot of things. And it's like, how do I put the most time and effort into the thing that is the most, to use B2B terms, like what's the MVP of this? What's the minimum viable product of what I'm going to put my time into that is going to get me to where I want to go? And just to be a little open, like this live show, I don't necessarily even know where my destination is yet, but I know that this is something that it's in the right direction. This is something I like to do. I like to talk to people. I like to hop in front of a camera and ask people questions and do these kind of things. And like I said, I wish I was on more podcasts, but I'm not. So I'm just doing it myself. And it's been a fun, I've realized that I have a lot of interest. It's been a lot of fun, like emailing people and getting like time set up, and I've got 6 guests already. So I'm like ahead of myself, I think. So I'm not putting a lot of stress on it. When we get done with this, I'm going to, like I said, send you a Slack message and say thanks. And then we'll talk again later. Which you shouldn't do with a prospect. You should definitely follow up, but I'm just saying like,
No, I love it, man. Yeah. So I'll answer this in a couple different ways. And then I'd love your thoughts on this stuff too. One is going to be from a career perspective. And I think I had the first 10 years of my career, I was working manual labor jobs. I swept chimneys for 5 years. I don't have a college degree. And for me to get to the point where I am now, it took a lot of kind of seeing what was possible and believing that, hey, I don't have to do what I'm doing right now forever. I can actually change and grow in different skills in different areas. So part of it is not necessarily knowing exactly where you want to end up, because that's a lot of times impossible. But it's really saying, hey, I want to move in this direction. And to your point, hey, it's better to just start a show and start inviting people on and doing something that's at least moving you in that direction. And if you don't know, this is a great medium to just get on and interview people on all kinds of different things. And you could pick whatever topic you want and interview people. And that's going to give you exposure to different industries, to different people, and help you start to hone in on what it is that you want to do. But then let's say you go, hey, I'm a marketing manager right now, and I want to move more into like marketing strategy, and I want to move into doing more of that stuff. Interview a ton of marketing strategists at different places and interview people who are doing that. Then interview leaders of companies who are hiring strategists, both to ask them about, hey, how do you think about strategy? When you have somebody on your team, what do they need to do to get buy-in from you to actually bring an idea all the way through and start learning about that? And just by asking those questions and being curious on your show, you're going to, again, be moving in the right direction. So from a career perspective, that's what I would talk about. So
I think that's exactly, I've spent most of my life going in some direction or the other, going towards things that I'm interested in, but I've also changed my path multiple times. I didn't go to school for writing or for content or marketing. And I just, my interest in things evolved. And like, in a way, I put myself in the proximity of whatever it is that I want to do next. And
yep,
this is a
to
way to do that and do it. I don't know. I think to make it exponentially more powerful or more impactful, or however you want to look at it, is like whatever my next decision is. If I want to stop being a content marketer or a content writer and I want to just focus on, maybe I want to be a customer success manager, for example. Maybe that's where I start going and interviewing every like customer service success person I've worked with, or every account manager or every project manager that I've worked with in the past, and start figuring out, okay, how do I become this? How do I get in front of the right people? And this is something I'm interested in. What do I need to do to put all those things together? And then after I've interviewed 2 or 3 months of interviewing people, I have a pretty good idea about what roles look like and what skills are most valuable and what we need to do. And now I know where I need to be next in life. And that sort of helped me, or maybe I find out I don't want to do that at all after interviewing all those people, but at least now I know that I didn't waste, but I only used up 3 months of my life to figure out I didn't want to do this, versus pursuing a degree or a certificate of something else and realizing I don't like it once I've landed the job.
Yeah. And this is kind of what's happened for me. So I start seeing, hey, I like marketing. I've done video stuff for a long time. I like this stuff, but I'm sweeping chimneys right now. Okay. I listened to 300 books on marketing and business and sales and strategy and all kinds of stuff, storytelling and all this stuff. Listened to probably 1,500 podcast episodes while I was driving 3 hours a day between appointments. And then I started just doing that stuff for other people and got a little bit of a portfolio, built some websites for people and took digital marketer certifications and started doing email marketing sequences and stuff, sometimes for free, sometimes for dirt cheap, sometimes for what I thought was good money at the time. This is awesome, whatever, and taking pictures. And then that generated new opportunities. And then I take that portfolio and I use that to land my first job as a product marketing manager. And then I'm leaning into what I'm best at in those areas and what I'm most interested in, and really go above and beyond overall, but especially in these areas I really want to grow in. And I move the company forward in whatever that area is, right? And then that ends up leading me every single time to the next opportunity. And then it's looked a few times like me starting a business or a side hustle, sometimes working in it full time for a little bit, sometimes just here and there for a little bit, to hone this area of skill that I really want to have. So if it's not available at the company I'm working at, then going and doing that on my own to build that skill. And then I'm bringing that skill back into the company I'm working for. But then also that ends up opening up opportunities somewhere else, to where now my role at Scrappy is awesome. It's really doing the things that I am super good at doing, that I've already done before, I've executed before, and I really enjoy doing it. So now my role right now is the most tailor-made role for me specifically that I've ever had, because I've been focusing on this exact skill and I've been learning that over time, what I really enjoy. And now I'm really able to come in and help move things forward because I've got that skill built up. So it's incrementally moving forward, and then just being patient to let yourself get there over a 5-year period or a 10-year period, rather than being like, I got to move into something new in the next 3 months.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's super incredible to hear. And also, like, just, I feel like it's very motivational, or at least inspirational for a lot of us, even if we're currently in our career that we like we heard, like, it is possible to just listen, because I did a lot of the same things. I just bought some books and listened to podcasts and did some certifications, and at the end of that, didn't know how to do anything, and just started doing some stuff for free and throwing some stuff out there and did those kind of things. I know this is still like a loaded existential question, but if you could give like one just like piece of advice that is like a directional point for somebody who is sitting here right now listening to this and they're thinking they don't know, like they know they want to do something else and they're not sure what they want to do next? What would be like just a tiny like push in the direction of where they should go or where they should look? What would you suggest?
Yeah, I'm trying to think because that's something I had rolling around in my head, and I don't know that I want to go that far because we're already at 52 minutes. But one thing that I would encourage people to do is just, it is actually possible to totally change your life 100% in basically any direction that you want. It's absolutely possible. And most of us get stuck on the default train. That's going back to the analogy that I was sharing earlier. We go to the train station and we hop on whatever train shows up, and we just take the default path in life. And that's whether it's on a personal level or on a career level. And then we just assume this is just the path that I'm on. And we have this attitude of, I'm just going to keep doing this because this is what people like me do. And I would really encourage you to take a step back and say, is this train going in the direction that I want? Whether it's your career or your personal life or whatever that is. If I keep going on the default train for the next 5 years, am I going to be happy with the destination I end up in? Or am I going to end up somewhere in the frozen tundra that I'm totally miserable, and not in San Diego where I get to be outside and doing at the beach? Where do you want to go? And so then I would encourage people just to take a step back and really say, no, I'm a Christian. So for me, this comes back to really saying, Lord, what do you have for me? What do you have for my life? Where do you have for me to be? And to me, that's ultimately the way to do it. But whatever floats your boat on that side, you can figure out your own method. I think that's the best one. But from that perspective, it's really saying, hey, what am I made for? And is my life moving me closer towards that? And then it's sitting down. I'm married. So then super important part of that is then sitting down with your spouse and going, hey, what are our goals together? Are we making individual sacrifices to move together to where we want to be together, both financially and with our goals? And if you take the time to just sit down and go, where do I want to go? And if I keep doing what I'm doing, am I going to end up where I want to be? You'd be amazed at how quickly you can really move to where you want. Now, I'm not saying in 3 months, but I'm saying if you make that shift a year, 2, 3 years from now, your life can be way closer to what you want it to look like than what it does right now.
And then when you land on that, you start a live show and you interview the people doing what you want to do, and you just reverse engineer their success.
100%. I love it. That's it. That's exactly it. And that last thing, let's say that you don't want to do anything in B2B marketing at all. You don't want to do any of the things that, that would be related. You can still do a live show and interview real estate agents, or you could interview people who run the most successful dog walking business in your city. I don't care what it is. You can use this as a way to get proximity with the people who are doing what you want to do.
That's, I love that practical application. Absolutely. You don't have to be on LinkedIn. You can do this on Facebook, on YouTube, there's all kinds of other platforms that you can be. And just like you said, interview those people and and find out what they're doing and how to get where you want to go. Yeah. Thank you so much for the advice. You went super deep on questions, and I really appreciate that, because what it allowed me to do was just to absorb all the advice that you're giving and let you be the star of this, which is what I wanted to happen. I didn't want me to have to, fill in all the gaps. So thank you so much for going super deep on this, Joseph.
Yeah, and also thanks for having me on.
And also just being the inaugural guest. I appreciate the advice and the help, and for helping me make this all happen. Would you want to leave with a thought or let people know like where to go find you and how to interact with you?
Find me on LinkedIn, hang out there a lot. And then if you want help launching a podcast, come talk to us, because we can help you launch a podcast much faster, easier, and all that. But also, if you're not a business and you're just an individual person, you're going, hey, I want to move forward in my career, hit me up. I'd love to chat with you and tell you how to start a live show, because it's an easy way to get started if you aren't if you're not making money from doing it.
And it's just a lot of fun too. Just put that there.
Ton of fun.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Joseph.
Yep.